attraction of CTV is the same as the attraction in advertising has always been. Advertisers follow eyeballs, and the most powerful medium they've ever used is television. And the eyeballs that they are familiar with in television have migrated, in part at least, towards CTV and to streaming outlets. So inevitably, the advertisers will go where the eyeballs go. And clearly, when you start going in that direction, you then think about it in terms of who are the main providers of audience and who are the main providers of great user experience, and where are those venues where advertising is welcome as opposed to those where it's not welcome.
What is sort of the opportunity or sort of some strategies for linear TV advertising to migrate to CTV? What scenarios do you think are practical?
Well, life is full of surprises. One surprise that of no surprise to anyone is that if people can choose to consume video with advertising, that is indeed what they will do. And those people that could afford it and were able to make that decision have been consuming HBO and Showtime and other ad-free channels for years. And that migration and the value exchange that's available to them with Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, other venues, turned out to be a great opportunity for the consumer from the point of view of user experience. But if you think about any of those streaming venues and you think about dollars expended in relation to hours of utility and entertainment received, they are astonishing value for money. Now, clearly there are also multiple venues that are ad supported, such as Amazon, Roku, and of course YouTube, as well as the ad-funded part of Hulu. So these are kind of major venues for advertisers, and they are still relatively small in terms of total ad impressions that are available from linear. But the bet in the advertising industry and among advertisers is that there are enough people that will migrate to ad-funded platforms to let that big living room video experience carry on working as a powerful medium for advertisers. Now, clearly, without the volume, what's become important is to think of other ways that you can create value in that experience. And what people have looked towards is how does data in particular change the streaming ad experience compared to the standard linear ad experience. And part of that is connected in turn with what people have hoped for, that some of the attributes of online advertising will make their way into the CTV market.
What is the promise of CTV as a digital form factor?
Well, identity is a pretty central issue. It's been a central issue in the online advertising ecosystem since it started. And anyone who is a follower of BTV will equally be a follower of the cookie deprecation story as it's being prosecuted by Google with Chrome, and the IDFA deprecation story as it's being propagated by Apple. So we all know, the participants in the industry, whether it's advertisers, agencies, or sellers of inventory, that the use of identifiers is going to change. Now, in connected TV, we have a persistent identifier still called the IP address, and we also have device IDs. So some combination of IP addresses and device IDs is going to remain important, at least for a time. But some people will be looking ahead beyond that and making some assumptions that maybe even those areas will start to deprecate. And who knows what's going to happen as an even bigger range of walled gardens starts to emerge. So we've become familiar with the Amazon walled gardens and with the Facebook walled gardens, but we're about to become familiar with device-led walled gardens operated by people like LG, Samsung, and Vizio. And the whole data use and the use of identifiers in the TV market is evolving at really quite a space. What I'm hoping people are going to do is to stand back and look at other forms of signal other than identifiers.
Such as, and we hear a lot about contextual advertising coming back. Is that part of it, or what other signals are you talking about?
Well, I'm not sure how much of a signal context really is, but one of the reasons why I look a lot towards YouTube on TV and Fire TV on Amazon is when I think about the most powerful signals that we came to associate with online advertising, we think about identity as one powerful signature, but we think about intent as an incredibly powerful signal. And we think about purchasing and transactions as a valuable signal as well. And you really don't have to look much further than Google's trove of intent data, which drives the YouTube TV advertising system, and Amazon's trove of transaction data, which drives the Fire TV system. So if you look at this kind of troika of intent on YouTube, of transactions on Amazon, and of cross-device graphs that exist in the Roku ecosystem, particularly after their purchase of DataZoo and their more recent purchase of assets from Nielsen. I think you see in those three groups a shape of connected TV and targeting and attribution, which has moved beyond the straight identifier cookie-based world of the online advertising market. And I think there's terrific opportunity in that.